What if the reflection staring back at you was never just you? What if, behind the sheen of silvered glass, something older than your name, older than light itself, has always been watching, waiting, listening? You've stood before a mirror countless times, combing your hair, checking your clothes, perhaps even trying to catch a glimpse of something spiritual. But have you ever noticed how strange it feels to look into your own eyes? For too long, as if the image you see isn't just copying you, but questioning you, as if you are the one being observed. Now imagine this: someone in your family has just died. The house is silent, the air thick with grief, and every mirror in the room is suddenly draped in black cloth. No one offers a full explanation. It's tradition, they say. It's respectful. But beneath the quiet customs lies something deeper, something forgotten. Across continents and centuries, people have covered mirrors after death. Victorian England, Jewish households during Shiva, African spiritual rites, Chinese ancestral rituals. Even in pockets of the American South today, old families still turn the glass toward the wall when a soul leaves the body. Why? This isn't just about grief. It isn't about vanity or superstition. It's about protection, not just for the living, but for the dead. In today's journey, we'll explore the hidden power of mirrors. We'll unveil why mystics feared them, why witches used them, why some say the mirror is a doorway and death is the knock. We'll uncover what happens to the soul in its final moments, and why, for thousands of years, our ancestors feared that mirrors might trap a piece of it, or worse, let something else through. You're about to enter a forgotten realm, where reflections are more than surface deep, where death doesn't end everything, and where glass is not as solid as it seems. Let's begin. Stand before a mirror and ask yourself, what are you really seeing? The conventional answer is simple. You see yourself. Light bounces off your body, strikes the surface of the mirror and returns to your eyes. But the esoteric view has always insisted this isn't just reflection. This is replication, mimicry, echo, and in that echo, something deeper can slip through. In spiritual traditions around the world, mirrors are considered liminal tools, objects that occupy the in-between, not fully one thing or another, not fully physical, not fully symbolic. A mirror isn't just glass and silver. It is a paradox made visible. It reflects everything, while being nothing. The mystics of old believed that a mirror was not passive. It records, not in the way a camera does, but spiritually. It remembers what stands before it. It creates an energetic impression, a psychic imprint. In simpler terms, it stores the echo of your essence. Imagine walking through a forest and hearing your own voice echo back to you. That echo isn't you, but it's not separate from you either. It's a ghost of your sound, suspended in air for a few seconds. The mirror does something similar with your image, your presence, your aura. Now consider what happens at the moment of death. Spiritual traditions from Tibetan, Buddhism to Egyptian mysticism describe the moment of death as a passage, the Bardo, the duat, the crossing. The soul or consciousness begins to detach from the body, but this detachment is not immediate. It's not like flipping a switch. There is a liminal period, a kind of spiritual twilight, where the soul still hovers near the body, confused, vulnerable, and searching. If a mirror is nearby, especially one that the person looked into often, it may hold a strong, energetic imprint of them. That mirror becomes a trap, a loop. The departing soul may see itself in that reflection and mistake it for the doorway back to life. It may try to re-enter and become caught. This is why, in many traditions, people insist mirrors must be covered immediately after death. The cloth acts as a symbolic seal. It says, there is no going back. It prevents the soul from lingering in repetition, repeating the echo, trapped in reflection. But this is only one side of the mystery. Just as a mirror might trap a soul, it might also invite something else through. Think of it like a gate left open. When someone dies, the veil between the worlds thins. The moment is sacred, but also dangerous. Because what is leaving isn't the only thing moving. Something may enter. In occult circles, mirrors are used in rituals not just for reflection, but for contact. They are called black mirrors or scrying mirrors. Practitioners will sit before them for hours, not to see themselves, but to receive visions, communications, warnings. But every doorway is two-way. When a soul departs, the mirror becomes charged with liminal energy. It hums with spiritual static. If left uncovered, it may become a beacon, a signal fire in the unseen realms. And not everything that sees that signal has good intentions. Entities drawn to grief, forces that feed on confusion, shadows without memory, without form, searching for vessels. A mirror uncovered in a house of mourning becomes a portal, not because of myth, but because of metaphysical alignment. In times of death, the energies in a space become disordered, heavy, charged, and mirrors, as sensitive energetic instruments, begin to resonate. They vibrate with everything that has been and everything that wants to be. This is why children were often forbidden to look into mirrors after a death. Their spirits are still soft, unformed, too open. A child staring into a mirror in such a moment might see more than their face. They might see the one who died, or something else entirely. This brings us to an even more hidden truth, the concept of soul fragmentation. In many shamanic and mystical traditions, it is believed that trauma or death can split the soul, that not all of it transitions. Some pieces become lost, wandering, searching, and a mirror, acting like a pool of memory, may hold that fragment indefinitely. It might not be dramatic. It may be subtle, a cold spot in the room, a lingering sadness, a strange urge to avoid that particular mirror. These fragments, trapped in reflective space, can affect the living in ways they may never understand. Some cultures have ceremonies specifically for cleansing mirrors after a death, not just covering them, but purifying them. Because once a mirror has seen death, it carries a residue, and that residue can bleed into the lives of those who remain. This is the forgotten knowledge, not superstition, but metaphysical hygiene. You wouldn't drink from a glass that once held poison. So why would you stare into a mirror that once held a soul? To fully grasp the mirror's role at the threshold between life and death, we must explore what reflection truly is, not optically, but ontologically. Because in the mystical traditions, a mirror is more than an object. It is a witness, and not all witnesses are silent. Every time you look into a mirror, you're not just seeing yourself. You're engaging in a ritual of recognition. The mind says, "That's me," but deeper than the mind, something ancient stirs, a recognition far older than language. In esoteric psychology, mirrors are symbols of self-awareness, but also of distortion. Carl Jung once warned that our conscious identity is a fragile construct, what he called the persona, and mirrors reinforce that illusion. When you gaze too long, you risk seeing not your true self, but the mask you wear to survive. This is why prolonged mirror gazing can lead to unsettling experiences. In a phenomenon known as the strange face illusion, people who stare into mirrors for extended periods often report seeing their face morph, change, or reveal hidden figures. Science chalks this up to neural fatigue and visual processing glitches, but mystics interpret it differently. They say the mask cracks, and when it cracks, what peers through is not your ego, but your shadow, that unconscious self, the one that remembers every pain you denied, every part of you that's been buried, shamed, or forgotten. Now imagine a soul, freshly separated from its body, approaching the mirror it once knew. That mirror doesn't show it the light or comfort of release. It shows it the echoes, the regrets, the unresolved attachments, the parts of the self that never found peace. This is why, in many mystical systems, mirrors are considered spiritually dangerous not only at death, but during times of deep emotional turmoil, because they don't just reflect appearances. They reflect the resonance of a person's state of being. Think of a mirror as a tuning fork. When struck by energy, grief, anger, desire, it begins to hum with that frequency. The longer it is exposed to a person, the more of that energetic memory it holds. That's why heirloom mirrors often feel heavy. That's why people say, "This room feels off," without knowing why. It's the mirror. It's remembering. And during death, when the psyche is unmoored, when the spirit is in motion, that humming mirror becomes more than just a memory. It becomes a magnet. It draws, it tempts, it anchors. This is especially true in places where death occurred suddenly or violently. The mirror becomes the last witness, holding the imprint of the event like a scar in its silver. In folklore, there are stories of mirrors that never stopped showing the dead, even years after the funeral. Faces that flash at the edge of your vision, cold breath on glass, the unsettling feeling that the room is never truly empty. These aren't horror stories, they're warnings. And the most profound warning is this: mirrors do not forget. Now let us peer into the most esoteric layer of this mystery, the idea that mirrors are not merely objects that reflect reality, but tools that shape it. In many ancient magical systems, the mirror is not passive, it's interactive. To look into a mirror is to invite a conversation between realities, the visible and the invisible, the conscious and the unconscious, the seen and the refused to be seen. This is why magicians, witches and mystics rarely treated mirrors casually. In ritual spaces, mirrors are covered not out of modesty, but because an uncovered mirror becomes a lens without a cap, always absorbing, always watching. And what it absorbs, it may later return. In the Hermetic tradition, which views reality as a correspondence between the inner and outer worlds, as above, so below, the mirror acts as a sacred threshold. It is the point where spirit meets matter. That's why certain initiation rites involved gazing into mirrors, while reciting incantations, not for vanity, but for confrontation. The initiate was forced to witness their own energetic state in unfiltered form. In that light, you can see how a mirror left uncovered after death is not just a hazard for the soul of the departed, but for the living too. Because mirrors do not reflect truth, they reflect intention. What you bring to them, they amplify. What you fear, they echo. What you hide, they reveal. And in the emotionally charged space of mourning, where grief saturates the air and memories swirl like fog, the mirror becomes saturated too, with longing, with confusion, with whispers. You may not hear them, but the mirror does. This is why, even today, spiritual practitioners cleanse their mirrors regularly. It's not aesthetics, it's spiritual hygiene. Just as you would sage a room or wash your hands after a ritual, the mirror must be cleared of energetic residue. Otherwise, it becomes a recording device that plays grief on a loop, imprinting its frequency onto anyone who stands before it. There are even modern mystics who go so far as to say that all mirrors are inherently portals and should be treated as such, that they are never neutral, that even the act of buying an antique mirror, without cleansing it, can invite the emotional residue of a stranger's life into your home, their heartbreak, their death, their confusion. We scoff at such notions in the age of algorithms and high-speed data, but maybe that's why we're more haunted than ever, because in trying to make everything visible, we've forgotten how to protect what's unseen. Now that we've unearthed the ancient and esoteric meanings behind mirrors and their connection to death, the question arises, what can you do with this knowledge? This isn't just a journey through folklore. It's a guide for how to live with greater awareness, protection and reverence for unseen energies that most people ignore until they can't. Let's begin with one simple principle. Mirrors are not decoration, they are instruments. Once you shift your perspective from object to energy interface, everything changes. Here's how you can start applying this understanding in daily life, especially in moments of transition, grief, or deep inner work. 1. Cover mirrors. During death, illness, or emotional upheaval, if someone in your family passes away, or even when someone in the household is seriously ill, cover the mirrors. Use a dark, opaque cloth, not sheer, not decorative, something that communicates a clear closure of the gate. This is not just symbolic, it's energetic insulation. You are reducing the chance that lingering emotional or spiritual energy will be caught or distorted in reflective space. If you can't cover all mirrors, for example, in shared spaces, avoid looking into them during that time. And more importantly, don't allow children to gaze into them. The younger the soul, the more porous their spiritual field. 2. Cleanse mirrors regularly. Even in times of peace, mirrors absorb. Think of every argument, every sorrowful glance, every moment of self-hate or anxiety that happened near a mirror. It lingers. To cleanse a mirror spiritually, wipe it down with salt water or water infused with sage, mugwort, or frankincense. As you wipe, move in counterclockwise circles. This is the traditional direction for banishment in many mystical systems. Speak softly or mentally affirm, I release all energies that do not belong. Let this mirror return to clarity. After cleansing, let the mirror dry naturally. No towels. Do this monthly or after any emotionally charged period in your life. 3. Don't place mirrors opposite beds, doors, or altars. In Feng Shui and esoteric geomancy, mirrors opposite these sacred points can cause energy to bounce or fragment. Sleep becomes restless, dreams become confused, you may even feel watched. Your bed is where your unconscious opens fully. A mirror facing your bed can trap the symbols of your dream space, or worse, invite projection of your dreams into a reflective feedback loop. Doors are portals. Altars are energetic beacons. Placing a mirror to reflect either is like opening a window to an open window. It doubles the invitation and the instability. If mirrors must be in these areas, keep them covered at night or during ritual work. 4. Avoid antique mirrors without spiritual preparation. An antique mirror is a living archive. It has reflected decades, sometimes centuries, of human energy. You might find it beautiful, but beauty can be deceiving. Before bringing an old mirror into your home, cleanse it thoroughly, not just physically but spiritually. Repeat the salt water ritual, perhaps adding incense or sound cleansing. Set a new intention for it. Speak it aloud. You no longer carry what came before. You now serve clarity, peace, and protection. If you ever feel uncomfortable around an antique mirror, trust it. Energy doesn't lie. Mirrors can become vessels for fragments, and you don't need to know whose they are to be affected by them. 5. Use mirrors intentionally for inner work, not mindlessly. Most people glance at mirrors dozens of times a day without thinking. Hair, clothes, skin, surface things. But if mirrors are truly spiritual instruments, then every glance becomes an unconscious ritual. You're not just checking your reflection, you're reinforcing your identity or distorting it. This is why spiritual teachers from ancient Greece to India warned against excessive self-observation. Not because vanity is a sin, but because identity is a spell. When we look at ourselves without presence, we deepen the illusion of separateness. The I that exists only in the mind becomes more rigid, and the soul, which is fluid, gets trapped in that rigidity. If you want to use mirrors spiritually, set the tone. Try this practice. Sit before a mirror in dim light. Breathe slowly. Let your body soften. Look not at your features, but through your eyes, into the space behind them. Ask gently, who is looking, not to find an answer, but to experience the question. If you sit long enough, you may feel a shift, a flicker of something unfamiliar. That's the point, not to see your face, but to see what hides beneath it, what wants to be acknowledged, what's been waiting behind the glass. But stop the moment you feel unsettled or fragmented. The mirror is a tool, but only when you are grounded. Otherwise, it becomes a hall of echoes. 6. Create a mirror ritual for releasing the dead. When a loved one passes, covering mirrors is the first step. But uncovering them, when done with intention, can become a powerful rite of closure. Here's one way. On the 7th day after death, a sacred number in many traditions, uncover one mirror. Light a white candle nearby. Place something the deceased loved, an object, scent, or photograph. Stand quietly. Speak to the mirror. Your reflection is free. Your path is clear. Return now to the light, and may all who see this face be blessed. Then, using salt water or sacred herbs, cleanse the mirror. This act tells the soul it is no longer tied to the image. It releases the emotional residue left behind and sets the tone for grief to turn into remembrance, not spiritual entanglement. 7. Keep one mirror as a clean portal, only for ritual use. If you're serious about spiritual work, reserve one mirror as a dedicated sacred tool. Never use it for mundane purposes like checking your appearance. Keep it covered when not in use. Cleanse it before and after every use. Use it for meditation, prayer, or spiritual inquiry only. You may even inscribe a symbol on the back, a sigil for protection, clarity, or truth. This tells the mirror and your unconscious mind that this is not a passive object. It is a boundary, a vessel, a temple gate. Over time, this mirror may begin to feel different, heavier, wiser. You'll know when it's active, not because it looks different, but because you feel different in its presence. 8. Understand the mirror as a teacher, but not a master. There's a subtle but vital distinction here. A teacher shows you what you don't yet see. A master demands your obedience. The mirror was never meant to define you. It was meant to reveal you, and then let you go. This is why spiritual practice includes mirror fasting. Days or weeks where you don't look at your reflection at all. Not to avoid your appearance, but to detox from identity. To stop reinforcing the mask long enough for something deeper to emerge. Try it, even for 3 days. See what happens when you rely on feeling instead of reflection. When you tune in to how you carry yourself, not how you correct yourself. It may be uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is the doorway to insight. 9. Pay attention to children's mirror experiences. Children are often more sensitive to subtle energies than adults. They may point to the mirror and say they saw someone, or talk to a reflection that isn't mimicking them. They might suddenly avoid a particular mirror or become obsessed with it. Don't dismiss this. Ask gently what they saw. Listen without judgment. If they seem disturbed, cleanse the mirror. If the discomfort persists, consider removing the mirror from their space altogether. Children's energetic fields are not fully developed, and mirrors, especially old or spiritually charged ones, can overwhelm them. Teach them early that a mirror is not just a toy or a tool, but something sacred, something to be treated with care and respect. That knowledge alone can protect them in ways most adults have forgotten. 10. Anchor your own energy before interacting with mirrors. In times of grief or change, this may be the most important step of all. Before entering a room with uncovered mirrors during or after a death, take a moment to ground yourself. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe deeply into your belly. Say to yourself, I am present, I am protected, I am whole. This simple act centers your energy. It reminds your consciousness not to scatter, not to be pulled by the magnet of grief or the lingering energies in the room. It tells the mirror, I come as a sovereign being. Mirrors, like all spiritual tools, respond to intention. When you carry clarity, they reflect clarity. When you carry chaos, they echo it. And during death, when energies swirl like smoke, the one who holds their center becomes the axis around which the chaos dissolves. You don't have to fear mirrors, but you must remember them. They are not furniture, they are gates. Not every gate is evil, but every gate requires respect. Treat mirrors not as enemies to hide from, nor as altars to worship, but as thresholds to pass through with wisdom. So now, when you walk past a mirror, you'll feel it, not just your reflection, but the weight of memory, the echo of all who have stood where you stand, some still watching, some still waiting. What began as a simple tradition, covering a mirror after death, is no longer simple. Is it? It is ancient technology, a spiritual firewall. Not because glass holds magic, but because you do. And what reflects you, responds to you. We've forgotten the language of symbols. We mock rituals as superstition, but our ancestors weren't stupid. They just remembered something we've been trained to forget, that the world is layered, that the physical bleeds into the spiritual, that some doors should be opened carefully and others closed completely. The mirror is one of those doors, whether it's the black veil over glass in a mourning home, or the quiet chill when you see a face in the corner that shouldn't be there, or the way a child whispers, he lives in there. The message is the same. Treat your reflection as sacred, because the space behind it might be listening. Before we part, let me leave you with this. A mirror never lies, but it doesn't tell the whole truth either. It shows you the surface, the echo, the illusion. What it can never show you unless you're ready is the soul. That part you must meet in silence, in ritual, in stillness, and sometimes, in the space between breaths, you'll catch a flicker of something real behind the glass. If this video awakened something in you, an old memory, a curiosity, or simply a new sense of caution, then I invite you to not look away. Sit with that feeling, explore it, protect it. The world is filled with hidden doors, and wisdom begins when you stop walking past them. Now I ask you, what have your mirrors been holding? And are you brave enough to find out? Reflect, cleanse, cover what must be covered, and never forget, not everything that looks like you is you.